Roman, good to see you. And your USA, is that hockey?
It's USA Hockey, baby. It's that first day of the year for hockey season in the Olympic world, I should say.
They're going to get the gold?
I hope so. It's going to be a battle. I mean, Canada and Sweden are both difficult teams. It's so hard to root against Sid, but you root for your country, of course. Yeah. And there's a lot of good players on USA, and we lost in the Four Nations against Canada, but I think we can do it this time. It's just things got to come together. There's a lot of young talent, so I'm excited to watch hockey.
One of those guys that plays for New York Rangers, Miller, he used to play at Brady's Run Ice Rink.
Yeah, JT Miller, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel it's kind of a local tie there
Local tie there. We've got Jake Gensel, who used to be a Penguin, on the team. The Chuck brothers and Brody Miller. There's a lot of good young talent, and excited to watch it.
We're here to talk state government, and one of the things we've been hearing Noah doing his news report, this proposed new law about cursive, about students in Pennsylvania schools being taught cursive. And I've seen people complain about that on Facebook. Kids today, they don't know how to write a check, or they don't know what cursive is. So we'll talk about this law and what the importance of it.
Well, it's one of those things that I think prior to coming into government, I was like, what's this all about? Like, what's the point of this? But when I was campaigning, I actually heard that pretty regularly, which was something I was shocked by. I learned cursive. I remember having to do it all. My kids learned cursive at their school, so there are schools doing it, but there's a lot of schools that are not. And my colleague, Dwayne Watrow, he's out in the eastern side of the state. He had introduced this bill, and it gained legs because there was a lot of movement. Oftentimes when you have something that you introduce, if it's pretty nonpartisan and a lot of people hear about it, it starts to move. And this is one of those things where people across the state were hearing about it, and they wanted cursive in the classroom, and the governor decided to pick up on it. So there we are. We're trying to set standards in Pennsylvania to have kids at least remember how to use a pen.
I struggle sometimes. I'm writing a check, the capital letters for Z or Q or something. How do you do that again?
Sometimes you make it up when you forget, right? Yes. You just kind of squiggle something. There's some weird letters out there for cursive. But yeah, I guess a small win considering all things.
An article that caught my eye today in Spotlight PA talking about the legalization of recreational marijuana. It's saying it's very divided. It's not looking like there's going to be a big push for that this year after all. So what are you hearing, and what are your thoughts about?
The governor talked about it in his budget address. In what he proposed, the spend number, which I know I called in and talked with Frank about it a couple weeks ago, is way more money than we can handle, way more money than we're bringing in revenue by billions and billions of dollars. And I think one of the ways he's saying, we could try to make that up is by legalizing marijuana. You don't just fill a little bit of a budget gap by getting people high. But that being said, there's so many social trade-offs with that, and there's a lot of discussion around it. But also, it's just not. It's not a great revenue builder. People think it's all this revenue. Oh, look, you could get all this revenue from marijuana. Actually, if you look at all the states that have legalized it, it's less than 1% of their budget revenue. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot. And it's also introducing something into society that causes significant increase in costs, from law enforcement all the way up through social services, mental health. You see that everywhere, particularly Colorado is the great case study where those things increase significantly, and it actually increased costs for the state and for municipalities for various reasons. And it's not a revenue cash cow by any means.
We're here with Rapping the Reps. Roman Kozak joining us. If you have a question, 724-843-1888. We're hoping for Representative Josh Kale as well. Is there other legislation that you're currently working on, co-sponsoring, or what are some of your projects at the moment?
Yeah, I've been working on this Bill Nicholas's law for a while. I've talked about it on air before. We actually got it unanimously through the Judiciary Committee in the House. It is yet to be brought to the floor for a vote on the House. There's politics in play for that reason. I don't have to get into those details at the moment unless you want to, but it's just a bill to remove the statute of limitations for nonverbal care-dependent individuals. It stemmed from the situation that happened at a local home here in Beaver County where a child was abused, and it was discovered later that he was abused significantly in horrible ways that I feel uneasy even talking about because he was nonverbal care-dependent, and a caretaker was filming the abuse. And on an unrelated rape investigation of this individual, they've discovered these videos of the abuse, and it was beyond 2 years, and there was no way to try him in the state of Pennsylvania. The federal government came in and tried him on hate crimes, but we couldn't prosecute him in Pennsylvania. And so it's a bill in honor of Nicholas, who lost his life because of the abuse. So it's a bill, you know, for me that's really near and dear to my heart. It's something in my first year as a legislator I've been really trying to work on. I have other bills, you know, firefighters weirdly enough, in our transportation code, firefighters are not given authority to direct traffic in an emergency situation. Now, people just, I think it's an accepted societal, like, hey, it's a firefighter. Like,
I want them to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if a tree falls down and the firefighters arrive on scene, but the idea now is like, well, if there's a situation where a firefighter gets hit by a car or something happens, right? It's like you weren't listening. Did you break the law? Well, the firefighter shouldn't have been there in the first place. So we're cleaning up language to try to avoid a situation like that. You know, a bill like that. There's other ones I could run down to, but those are two of them I was just thinking off the top of my head. And we also, obviously, Josh and I, Representative Kale and I, have a big one that we just announced as well, but it's going to be a long battle and a long fight. And yeah,
we'll get into the emissions one when Josh Kell gets here. And another one that keeps coming up, data centers. We keep hearing about that. And I know that was one of the proposals in the budget, pushing some of the responsibility on the companies opening these as far as the grid or the water. What can you tell us? What do you think will happen there? Yeah.
So data centers are the new discussion in a lot of ways. I've been learning a lot about them over the past 6 months. Governor Shapiro in his budget address, I'm happy what he said. He said we need to come up with a plan. He has a plan of his own that he hasn't fully released all the details on. It's probably going to be packages of legislation in the House and in the Senate. But the idea behind it is if a developer comes in, we have to do this wisely, which I think everyone agrees. Anytime a massive new industry arrives on your doorstep that's honestly new to all of us, we have to be like, okay, what is this going to actually mean for our communities? And how do we want to encourage economic development in the future economy and be part of that, but also do it in a way that is responsible to our neighbors and the people that live around us and our communities? So that's a discussion on that. You know, there's a lot of really scary information. A lot of people, I think, Google data center and they see immediately, or will data center raise my electricity prices? It's a yes and no question. It depends is another way of putting it. And you have to get deeper into energy policy and what that means for us, how we're all interconnected on the PJM grid, which provides energy or electricity for our entire region, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, New York. This area here, and how no matter where you put a data centers are all over Virginia and they're part of PJM. And these are old data centers, different from newer data centers. What do the newer ones look like? But whether you put a data center in your backyard here in Beaver County or you put one over in Harrisburg, it's all on the same grid. So electricity prices don't just rise around that specific building. It's all, they pull energy or contribute energy dependent on the type of data center. So that's a whole package. We could spend a whole show on that.
Are there advantages to a community to having one? Is there job creation? Is there development because of that?
Significant construction jobs, significant. And I'm talking about especially in our building trades, the expertise that's needed for those structures, especially with cooling, like HVAC and cooling mechanisms, regular maintenance and upkeep. So maintenance, upkeep jobs, security jobs, people on site, IT tech, people that can be remote, but there's a lot of people that also need to be on site depending on how big it is. The one in Shippingport, Bruce Mansfield, they're talking around 500 permanent jobs, maybe more. There's a lot to data centers. You know, again, there's a lot of scary stuff out there. This reminds me of, excuse me, it reminds me of when fracking or when natural gas exploration started becoming new. And there's a lot of propaganda on both sides coming out, and it was really hard to discern, like, what is the reality? People are lighting their sinks on fire, and you're like, you know, the water coming out of their sink. Like, what is this real? You find out some of it's just a bunch of phony stuff, you know, methane from other things. But the data center stuff, I think we got to be wise and smart about it. I'm very excited about the future economy, but I think there's also a lot of concerns that we need to deal with, and we got to make sure that, I mean, our municipalities, they have right now full authority over their zoning. And so they can make decisions based off of zoning and what they want and how they zone their communities for certain types of development. And if they don't want them in their communities, you can't just exclusionary zoning. You can't just remove the ability for them to come, but you can zone in such a way that they won't want to come to your community, if that makes sense.
It does.
So there's a lot to talk about there.
Do you want to take a phone call, or we can?
Yeah,
do a commercial?
absolutely. I think so. Just Representative Kale, he just got out of a meeting, and he said he's going to try to be calling into us. So,
maybe it's him on. It might be him.
I don't know. It
right
might
now.
be him. I'm not
let's
sure.
find, hey, you're on the Beaver County Radio Morning Show. Hello.
Good morning, Scott.
Oh, hey, Georgie. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Thank you for having the gentleman in. I have a question for you, Mr. Kozak.
Yeah.
What is being done with the property tax for senior citizens, especially the ones that's living on a very low fixed income? Is there any result with the committees on dropping some of these tax burden on homeowners? I've lived in my house for over 55 years. And I've been paying dearly on taxes.
Yeah.
And is there anything going on with that?
There are multiple bills that have been introduced by Republican colleagues of mine on this very topic. One, eliminating property tax or property tax freezes, different variations of how we'll deal with it. What I'm learning quickly in Harrisburg is there's not an appetite amongst the other side of the aisle to deal with this issue. And what big part of the reason is the funding. The discussion is about how do you replace that revenue. I know that Stacey Garrity, who is running for governor under the Republican ticket, her and Jason Ritchie, who is the new lieutenant governor, I guess you could say endorsed candidate from the Republican side. He's an Allegheny County guy. He's actually a Beaver County guy originally, Jason Ritchie. You should look him up. He went to Hopewell. But they've been talking about a property tax freeze for seniors. Or dealing with a specific way to allow seniors, those on fixed incomes who've been paying their entire lives, to finally get some relief. And we've got to figure out a way to deal with it. Listen, Pennsylvania has got a ton of revenue coming in, and there's a lot of revenue going to places where I think we need to tidy up and clean up. And that if we can figure out a way, I mean, yes, there is property tax rent rebates for certain individuals, and people appreciate that program. They get some money back, but it's not the same because there's a twofold problem here. We don't have the revenue to, or how do we make up the revenue, and where does that shift to? And the other side of it is we're losing population. People are leaving Pennsylvania. The only population that's really increasing here is retirees. We don't tax inheritance tax. I'm sorry, we do tax inheritance. Don't get me. I'm a sponsor on that bill, by the way, to get rid of inheritance tax. But we tax retirement, or like Ohio, Virginia, places around us tax retirement. Pennsylvania does not. So it actually encourages seniors in surrounding states to move into Pennsylvania to save on taxes. But that also increases their requirement to pay property taxes. There's a lot to that.
Hey, Georgie, if I can cut you off there, we have Josh Kale on the phone now, so I'm going to bring him into the conversation as well. I think I can do this correctly. Josh, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Scott. Thank you for having me. I'll be in the studio in a couple minutes. I'm sorry I was running a little bit behind today. But what Roman said on property tax, man, that's exactly correct. Look, this isn't a problem we can fix overnight. I think everyone would love to just snap their fingers and get rid of it, and it is burdensome. I can't stand paying it myself. And I hate the idea that I'll never actually own my home. So there's something that needs to be done here. And what Stacey Garrett is talking about isn't just putting a freeze on property taxes for seniors. It's really a first step towards transitioning from a system that funds schools and county budgets based off of property taxes to a different system. It's not something that can happen overnight. It's something that incrementally can change. And if you look at other states like Florida, they're ahead of us on this. They've already done the freeze for seniors that are of a certain age and worth under a certain amount economically. And now they're transitioning towards getting rid of property taxes altogether. So it's something that takes time. It's something that's been discussed for as long as I can remember in the politics of Pennsylvania. There is real momentum about this issue. I feel it's coming up into this election cycle. I think it's going to have real momentum going forward. But look, the Harrisburg incrementalism is revolutionary. Any type of change is a positive thing. Any type of change in the right direction is positive, and we need to keep fighting for that.
Appreciate that. Roman, anything you would dovetail on that or okay?
No, that's yeah.
Tell you what, John, we can play a commercial and do news, and we'll give you a little time to get here. So you said you're on the way?
I will be there by 9:30.
All right, love it. Let's do that right now. Stay tuned for more from Rapping with the Reps, State Representatives Kale and Kozak.
Luann's Route 68 Food and Spirits and Industry is the place for wing specials on Thursdays, fish, homemade crab cakes, and crab-stuffed mushrooms on Fridays, as well as karaoke night. Luann's Route 68 Food and Spirits is known for their famous steak salads and has happy hour from 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Find Luann's Route 68 Food and Spirits on Facebook for daily specials and live music. Luann's Route 68 Food and Spirits and Industry is veteran-owned and looks forward to serving you today.
February might be the month for love, but one thing that's hard to fall in love with around here is the weather. This is Cindy Haladio from Friendly Federal Credit Union. If gray skies, mud, wind, rain, and snow sounds more like something you're trying to avoid, it might be time to have a spring clean and go somewhere or do something that you really love. Check your passport, your gas tank, and the weather forecast for your dream vacation. Then come and see me for the money. Personal, home equity, and auto loans with approved credit might have you packing by the end of this commercial. Maybe even packing the trunk of your new car. Visit friendlyfcu.org for current available loans and terms. Start your search for something you'll love this month at Friendly Federal Credit Union, making more sense for you. Member NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
Friendly Federal Credit Union. You got a friend.
We are talking with Art Cornell from Beaver Cemetery. Art, I read a story recently about a local cemetery that had run out of funds and was struggling to pay for its upkeep. How did this happen?
Some cemeteries eventually become full and can no longer sell property and generate income. How will these cemeteries pay for their continued care? The cemetery may or may not have a fund for this purpose. In the story you mentioned, that cemetery is no longer selling property and its care fund is almost depleted. Now they're struggling to pay for the upkeep.
How can families be assured that their gravesites are protected now and in the future?
Beaver Cemetery exists to serve the public rather than make a profit. Our multi-million-dollar perpetual care fund is managed by a fiduciary to ensure that the care of the cemetery will be as it is today for hundreds of years.
Folks, you can learn more at beavercemetery.net.
Beaver County Radio and Digital Media are proud to present the all-new Beaver County Chamber of Commerce's State of the County on Friday, February 20th from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. live from the Fez in Hopewell. This year, Beaver County Commissioners Jack Manning, Daniel Camp, and Tony Amadeo will be joined by PA State Reps Josh Kale, Roman Kozak, Rob Matze, and State Senators Elder Vogel and Camilla Bartolotta to discuss the current state of affairs in Beaver County. Beaver County Radio's Frank Sparks will provide live coverage of this annual event on all aspects of Beaver County Radio. The show will also be video streamed live on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. The annual State of the County broadcast is being brought to you by Falcone's Moon Township Ford, McGee Heating and Air Conditioning, J. Young Refuge, St. Barnabas Health System, Patriot Healthcare, the Beaver County Chamber of Commerce, and Beaver County Radio.
Patriot Home Care is now hiring caregivers. Are you a caring and compassionate individual looking for a reliable income with benefits? Then call Patriot Home Care today. Benefits include health insurance, life insurance, paid vacation after 1 year, and 1.5 times hourly pay for overtime plus holiday hours. Patriot Home Care employees provide personal care, conversation and companionship, medication reminders, light housekeeping and laundry, meal preparation, and errands. Start your career in home care today and call Patriot Home Care at 724-506-8911 or apply online at patriothomecare.org.
If you own a company or a small business, you might have considered advertising on radio. It's smart because radio is still the most far-reaching media outlet today. WBVP and WMBA can get you results. Get more information at beavercountyradio.com.
Beaver County Radio's news source. 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, and beavercountyradio.com. Here's Noah Haswell.
Good morning on this Thursday, February the 12th of 2026. We will have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after we take this look at news. Several topics were discussed at the Beaver County Commissioners' work session yesterday morning at the Beaver County Courthouse in Beaver. One of them was when David Thompson, Assistant Director of the Beaver County Office of Planning and Redevelopment, described some resolutions involving funding for both CCBC and the IBEW Local Union 712 in Beaver during the solicitors' report.
There are 2 resolutions for each project, just different cooperation agreements. The CCBC Golden Dome is $450,000 to repair the leaky roof over the dome. And the IBEW one, this project is actually almost completed. This is an amendment to a previous resolution. They were originally awarded $500,000 for that new building in Vanport, and they got an additional $5,000 for $1 million total. So this is just amending that first resolution to reflect the $1 million total.
Pennsylvania State Police in Newcastle reported via release today, and that just shut off on my computer, so let's go to another one. 2 popular TV shows are getting an expensive injection from the administration of Governor Josh Shapiro to film in Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Film Office announced yesterday that it awarded $34 million for production of Season 3 of Tires and the 5th and final season of Mayor of Kingstown through the Film Production Tax Credit Program. The state of Pennsylvania believes that production on both shows will bring in a combined $131 million for its economy and support nearly 3,500 jobs, and the state also expects over $107 million to be injected into the economy of the Pittsburgh area. Now my other story shows up. Pennsylvania State Police in Newcastle reported via release yesterday that 38-year-old Brian Lowe of Ambridge was not charged after a single vehicle crash in Lawrence County on the afternoon of February 3rd, 2026. At 2:43 p.m., PSP Newcastle was dispatched to New Beaver Borough at 556 Glenkirk Road, and it was determined upon investigation that Lowe was traveling east on Wampum Mount Air Road and did not stop at a stop sign before making a right turn onto Glenkirk Road. Lowe left the road and then hit a fence with his vehicle, and even though he had a suspected minor injury, he was not transported. Jose Urquidy and the Pittsburgh Pirates have finalized their $1.5 million one-year contract yesterday. The sides agreed to terms last week subject to a successful physical. A 30-year-old right-hander, Urquidy adds depth to a Pirates pitching staff headed by NL Cy Young Award winner Paul Skeens. Urquidy had Tommy John surgery in June of 2024 while with Houston.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
Today it'll be mostly cloudy with a chance of scattered snow showers. We'll see highs of 28 and overnight lows around 16. Tomorrow, look for mostly sunny skies with highs of 35 and lows of 26. And we can expect to see more sunshine on Saturday with highs in the mid-40s and lows of 28. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
On this Thursday, February the 12th of 2026 at 32 minutes after 9, we've got a temperature of 27 degrees with some light snow out there currently in Beaver County. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Noah Haswell on 99.3 FM, AM 1230 WBVP, 95.7 FM, and 1460 AM WMBA, also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Thank you, Noah. We're back with Rapping with the Reps. Josh Kell is here in his shorts. You said you were on your way here. Did you run here?
No,
you got your running clothes on.
I think it's a product of next month I'm turning 40. And I was at the gym and I lost track of time. I just didn't. And then Roman texted me. It's like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "It's not 9 o'clock." I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" It was 9:10. I was in a good workout. I was in my groove. I was out at the YMCA down in Rochester, and I got there early today too. It's just, no excuses. It just maybe I got to get a little better with my calendar. I was talking to my staff on my way here. I was like, man, I think you guys need to get on my case a little more about this stuff. I can't be doing that anymore. So
making me feel lazy, though. You at least worked out today. I haven't done anything. Jeez.
Yeah.
One of the things we've been waiting to talk about is the emissions legislation that you guys proposed, and Roman wanted you, of course, to weigh on that as well. And that's something we always get phone calls here. People are always talking about that. When is something going to be done about it?
Yeah, it's about affordability. I mean, it's an archaic system. It doesn't make sense that Beaver County got to do it. It doesn't make sense that Washington County got to do it too. And I'm actually proposing legislation to eliminate it there as well, because my district goes into Washington County. There's a group of us down there that are looking at doing that too. You know, how that ultimately ends up working, whether or not we need to find other counties to do emissions, or whether we need to petition the EPA to, we'll work through that. It's going to be a long road. And frankly, Scott, I mean, this is something that Senator Vogel has been leading the charge on for years, maybe a decade now. And it's hard. It's hard to, change anything, especially when you're talking about taking, revenue away from Harrisburg. As silly as that sounds to us, because it's our constituents' money. It's not their money. They don't view it like that in Harrisburg. These agencies see that as a shot at their revenue stream. The real question is what good is that revenue stream doing for the constituents of Pennsylvania? And I would argue not much. And I think Roman would argue the same thing. So that's what we're working on. It's about affordability. It's about putting more money back in our constituents' pockets. It's about having a smarter, more efficient government.
Yeah, and so I talked about this with Frank the other day, too. At the doors, it's funny, we talked about property taxes already. There were 2 or 3 things that people wanted to talk about in Beaver County when I was at their door, because they find out when you're running for state, too. It was property taxes and emissions.
Yeah.
And emissions. And I kind of asked some questions early on, and I got some answers like, man, it's convoluted, it's difficult, it's federal. Like, what did all that mean, So after digging into it, Josh and I had been talking. We're like, you know what, this is ridiculous. Like, we've got to make some noise about this. So, I was knocking on a door in Franklin Township. It's the example I use every time. And a gentleman had a smaller car in his driveway, and he pointed across his street, which was the other side, which was Lawrence County, literally right across the same street. And the guy had a big pickup truck, and he said, that guy doesn't have to pay emissions. I do. Tell me why. And I was like, there is no reason other than an imaginary line the federal government painted in the 1970s that said, that's non-attainment zone. This is not non-attainment zone. We were grouped in. Beaver County as part of the Allegheny metropolitan sort of region. 1970s, those kinds of cars, all the mills. I could see why there was a lot of discussion around that. Cars are incredibly efficient now. When people go and get inspected, those emission systems are checked anyway to make sure they're not tampered with. To have to run another test on them for small businesses that have a fleet of cars, for individuals that are working, they fail a small test, their sensor doesn't work. It happened to me before, an O2 sensor on my exhaust system failed. I got to do it all over again. I got to pay for it. It's dumb. It's time to be done with it, but it's a long fight. We've ought to ultimately get the EPA at the federal level, or something legislatively here to petition them and the federal government to change part of that Clean Air Act that deals specifically with the zones. And Beaver County, unfortunately, got grouped into that, while 45 other counties in Pennsylvania don't have to pay it.
What do our neighboring states do? How do they address this?
They don't.
Well,
West Virginia and Ohio don't have them.
Well, Ohio does have emissions around Cleveland.
But not where our border is. Though.
Not where our border is. And so, like, there's fellow legislators in Ohio that are actually have gotten to the point where they've been petitioning the federal government. So that was another sort of signal to me, like, if they can do it, we can too.
Now, the budget proposal, let's talk about that as well. You've had some more time to process and then see what are some of the concerns that are rising most for you, or is there anything you're encouraged by?
Go ahead, Josh. You start us off.
Well, I mean, the major concern is it spends too much. Our projected revenue is something like $47 billion. We'll see how close we get to that, whether it's a little bit more because of the Trump economy, which I would anticipate it will be. I think revenues are going to be higher. I think growth is going to be higher. I think you're going to see a lot of positive signs for the economy because of the federal government's policies that we saw last year. So you're going to see the fruit of that labor, but at the same time, we're still going to be overspending what the revenue numbers are. And I just, we got to reframe how we think about budgets in Harrisburg. This idea that we're just going to spend dramatically more than what we bring in, not good. Long-term prognosis is not sharp. People talk about the rainy day fund and the extra money that's there. That's true, but plugging that into the budget, into the annual budget, and raising the expectations for these line items year after year is going to lead to a fiscal cliff. If we want to find ways to spend that money, it should be one of two things. One, giving it back to our constituents via tax cuts, or two, do one-off infrastructure projects, roads, bridges, sewage, things that can have a long-term ROI and aren't built into the budget. Because when you increase that line item from $10 to $20, of course it's more than that, the next year, the people getting the $20 are going to expect $20.
Yeah.
And if you run out of the rainy day fund because you've been spending that $20 3 years in a row, you're going to have to go back down to $10. And all of a sudden, people are depending on something that's not there anymore. And you're going to have to make a hard decision. I'm not for tax increases, so I'm for making government more efficient. The question is, where will a majority of the House and the Senate and the governor be? And I'm very concerned that they will want to find a way to raise taxes eventually. So that's my concern with the budget from a macro standpoint. We'll be drilling more into it. We got appropriations hearings coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm on the appropriations committee, so you'll be seeing a lot of talks with agency heads and budget discussions come end of February and beginning of March. So stay tuned, but overall, that's where I'm at with this budget as it stands right now.
We got a couple people on hold. Unless, Roman, you want to address that first? Or
I can, whatever you want, Scott. I'm happy to say a few words and we can jump into calls.
Do that.
So simple as this, right? Governor wants $53 billion. Last one was $51 billion. Okay, that's where we ended up.
Billion with a B.
Yeah, billion with a B, and that's $4 to $5 billion more than what we brought in. So we burned through all of our reserves in our checking account, and so now he wants $53 billion, and just very simple way of explaining it to people. Imagine you have savings. You're like, okay, I'm going to sign up for a bunch of subscription services, renew every year, annual, whatever, right? You're signing up for subscription services with the money from your savings account. When the savings account runs out, where does the revenue come from?
That's it.
Where's it going to come from?
Good.
It's going to come from people's pockets. That's what they're going to say. Oh, well, they did some voodoo magic in order to try to make it sound like it would balance, because we have to balance our budget. But the reality is $6.8 billion more than the revenue we brought in last year is what's being requested.
And can I just add one more point? Because that was an excellent illustration, but I want to add one more point. I have not been a legislator that long. In 2019 was my first budget. It was passed at $34 billion. And now we're talking proposals of $53 billion. I mean,
in 7 years.
Yeah.
60-70% increase.
That's a massive increase, and it's too much, and we need to start getting our fiscal head on straight in Harrisburg.
Let's take a phone call. Hey, you're on the Beaver County Radio Morning Show with the reps.
Scott, this is George again.
Hey, Georgie, how you doing?
I want to thank Roman and Josh. Gentlemen, I want to thank you gentlemen so much for coming on and debating this with the citizens out there. And I'll tell you what, the Democrats are listening to this station right now. You should think twice about who you're going to vote for the next time. In fact, you have to change your voting registration and could become a Republican. These two gentlemen are doing what they're assigned to do. They're elected to do it for us. So I'm telling you folks out there, think about what's going on here. You don't see Matsy come on the telephone and discussing these problems. These gentlemen are always on. So let's give these guys an applaud. They're doing a fine job. I appreciate what you guys are really doing for us. And I would like to see a town meeting between the Democrats and Republicans so we could come out and hear our opinions with you gentlemen. I know you guys would be there, but I challenge the Democrats to come out and go to one of these meetings where we can discuss these problems. You guys are doing a fine job. I love you guys, and you definitely have my vote.
Thank you. That's really kind of you. That's our goal. That's our goal, is to serve you guys and do the best we can in the roles that we are in our little corner of the universe here. So,
yep. And you made a great point, and something that I know is very important to me, and it's very important to Roman. is getting out there and talking to people, because we do this once a month and sometimes we show up late, but usually we get an hour in. But we also do town halls. I do 3 every spring, 3 every fall. They're wide open to the public. We send out notices to our constituents via mail, via phone, via text message. We want to get as many people there as possible. Because the only way to be an effective representative is to be a listening representative. There's no way for us to know exactly what's best for our districts without communicating and talking to people and having disagreements and working through those. So I'm always open for debate. I'm always open for discussion. And I appreciate you recognizing the importance of that.
Let's take another phone call. Hey, you're on Beaver County Radio with the reps.
Happy Thursday, gentlemen. Welcome to the representatives.
Hi, Charlie.
I got a question, and it's county related, but I'm going to ask if there's a way that the state legislator could help our county commissioners. We have a problem, as do a lot of counties, with places to put juvenile offenders when they're picked up. Okay? And the commissioners have been on it, been very frank and candid about it. It's a multi-headed issue. Funding is an issue. State regulations on these things, which is where you guys could help in both areas. And make it a long story short, our law enforcement people risk their lives to apprehend these juvenile criminals, and they've actually referred to it as catch and release because they have no place to detain them, partially because of funding and partially because, if I understand the commissioners correctly, the state regulations are like a lot of state regulations. They're kind of hard to get through. So if you could help the commissioners, I'm sure they've approached you about it. I'm sure you're aware of it. And I'll just kind of hang up and listen to your answer.
Thanks, Charlie.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
So it's certainly an issue that we're dealing with, not just here, but across the state. And one of the major issues is about, I think it was about 15, 20 years ago, there was a facility that was shut down in Beaver County, Allencrest, where people used to go. And there was a place to detain people. And because of various reasons, regulation, sure, but cost associated with it as well, for whether good, bad, indifferent, I'm not here to make a judgment on the reason why that was shut down. I'm just here to say that that's what caused and put this problem into motion, in particular in Beaver County, but it is something across the state that we are dealing with. I sit on the Pennsylvania Crime and Delinquency Commission, and it's these types of issues are brought up, and it comes back to the issue that every state-related problem comes to is funding, and appropriate funding is prioritizing correctly. So what are your priorities in the Commonwealth? And this is one that needs to be a priority, and I'll be advocating for those types of changes. Roman, I don't know if you've got anything else to add to that.
I'm not an expert on that. I'm on the Children and Youth Committee in Harrisburg, and we discuss a lot about juvenile issues, particularly as it relates to like sentencing and sentencing time periods and holding periods and whether or not how we need to handle some of the reforms there. But it's not something that I've had a chance to talk with the commissioners yet about. I've only been in office for about a year now, and I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. This is exactly like Josh said. This is like, town hall. You learn as well from your constituents and hear more about some of the problems that they're aware of. So it's a good thing to have in mind. So I know what to talk to them about next time and who to talk to there in Harrisburg about these problems. So thank you for letting us know.
Appreciate that, Charlie. So, Josh, you mentioned the town hall meetings you have. What are some of the other hot button topics that people seem to always be bringing up?
So property taxes is definitely one. New developments, and sometimes that's, people are speaking positively about new developments, sometimes negatively, sometimes there's just confusion as to what's going on. I mean, it's remarkable. I'm one of 203 districts across the Commonwealth, but we keep landing, at least speculation is there's going to be another $10 billion project in Shippingport, and people are curious about what that's going to look like. What's the long-term impact going to be? What's the impact on the grid? So you're hearing a lot of conversations like that. One thing that is universal that I'm hearing now is the cost of, in particular, electricity. And people are feeling it. It's the winter time. Gas, utility costs are just, tough right now. So those are the types of things that we hear about. And those are the things that we take back to Harrisburg and try and solve.
What's the answer to that? I mean, Duquesne Light or whatever is setting the prices. How can state government get involved?
Do you want to go? Because I'm going to unload on this. So you go first, and then I'll talk about it.
I mean, there's supply and then there's distribution costs, right? There's the supplies behind. What are the costs of the energy? What does it cost to make the energy? Mm-hmm. What is the supply, like the natural gas or whatever other fuel source, nuclear power, the things that drive the cost of energy. There's a marketplace, right? And at different times over the past 10 to 15 years, there has been strains on energy because of insane energy policies. A lot of this is labeled under this quote unquote green energy. But what it has done is it's constrained supply significantly over the past 10 years. So it's been driving down supply. We haven't had any new major natural gas production in Pennsylvania as far as like a facility since 2019. We talked about the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which we finally got out of, although Governor Shapiro is trying to push the legislature into a plan that's even worse of a cap and trade program for Pennsylvania. He calls it the lightning plan, and it'll be a lightning strike to your electricity bill, and it'll blow it up and set it on fire and make it cost even more. So we've got to deal with that. That's at the same time that they were driving away supply, pushing supply. Economics, supply and demand. As they were pushing supply down, the demand has only increased. They said, let's electrify everything. Utilities, appliances, everything needs to be pushed towards electricity. Cars, right? But now we don't have as much energy. And guess what's coming next? The AI revolution. Which demands a lot of energy. It doesn't matter where you are, Beaver County or California, there's a huge energy demand. And so there's a lot of multifaceted parts to this, but we need to make sure that we get our energy policy right, because if we do not get this right, we will see rolling blackouts or brownouts in our region in the next 5 to 8 years. And that's coming directly from the PJM grid operators themselves.
So what Roman said is exactly right. He hit on all the points. I just want to, for the audience out there, because there's a lot of propaganda going out right now from Governor Shapiro, who is out there beating his chest, talking about how he's saving money and he's blaming PJM. It's all a bunch of hogwash. It is all a bunch of hogwash. Your prices are going up because of his and Democrats' energy policy. End of story. End of story. And this isn't something we've been saying just recently. This is something I've been saying since I got into office. And President Trump is working very hard to drive down the cost of electricity through energy policy at the federal level. Josh Shapiro is working very hard to keep your energy prices up. He won't say that, but what he is proposing and what he is working towards is exactly that. Look, Josh Shapiro is trying to play this game. He's trying to please his special interest groups. He talks like he supports Pennsylvania energy, but he knows that he got to feed the green wing of his party. He got to keep them happy. So he is playing politics with our energy bill. And you can see it with the plan that he is proposing now. And you can see it with how he has walked this line over the course of the last so many years. Even as Attorney General, he was doing this nonsense. He was defending the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in court. He could have shut it down as soon as he became governor. He said he was going to. He didn't. We forced him to last budget cycle. Make no mistake, his policies, what he is proposing, will continue to increase your energy bill. It is very simple what the answer is. Not easy, but very simple. Get the hell out of the way. Get Harrisburg out. When we start interjecting ourselves in energy policy, it's become a disaster. Anytime you hear from a Democrat that they want to drive down the cost of something, watch out, because the next step is a proposal that's going to increase the cost of something. That's how this works. It is remarkable, and I'm not using hyperbole, and I'm not trying to be hyper political, but I've been there now for what's coming on 8 years. any energy policy they have proposed includes an increase to the cost of energy. And then they'll turn around and blame somebody else.
The utility
And
companies,
they'll blame
PJM,
the utility company,
whatever.
they'll
Yeah.
blame the producer, the big bad energy companies, blah, 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 blah. They're not the problem. The problem is Harrisburg, and the problem is Democrat energy policy. In Pennsylvania, with all the abundance of energy we should have the cheapest energy in the country. We don't. We actually have very expensive energy. We shouldn't even be getting anywhere near a blackout or brownout, but we are. It's political malpractice. It is political malpractice. There ought to be a way for my constituents to sue these Democrats for the policies they've put forward, because it's so ludicrous that we're having these problems in Pennsylvania. But we are having them because of their problems, and they're going to go out there and spread their propaganda and try and blame everybody else, and they're effective at it. I'll give them that. They're effective at the spin and the propaganda. But if you look at the history of all of this, it is very frustrating, because we have been fighting this fight since I've been in office, and now all of a sudden you hear them talking the same language that we've been talking since 2019 on affordability and on blackouts, but then they propose the same old nonsense that Roman mentioned, that is going to increase your electric bills and decrease our ability to create electricity. It's the same old merry-go-round rodeo with these people, and we're going to end up with the same old results, which is bad energy policy and increased prices.
I think we can take one more phone call. Hey, you're on the Beaver County Radio Morning Show with the reps.
Hey, good morning, Scott. Good morning, gentlemen. First off, I wanted to say that Josh and his whole staff have been nothing but fantastic to me. They've helped me and been more than welcoming. My question is, I never had children, and I've been paying school tax for 39 years. And I want to know if there will be anything that you guys can address to end that. I think that's one of the most unfair things that are going on. And my mom only had me, and she's been paying school tax still, and she's almost 80.
Yeah, so let me answer first very quickly. First off, I'd like to know, is my staff, did they pay you something to say that? Or did Monica ask you to do this?
No, not at all. Monica, even when Eric were there, they were always on the phone contacting us.
Yeah, we have very good staff, and 724-728-7655. Ask for Monica. We'll try and take care of anything that you can. We do, and I appreciate them, and they do good work. As far as the property tax issue, I mean, look, the way the property tax system is set up, you never actually own your home, because if you stop paying your taxes, the government's going to take it, and I think it's ridiculous that seniors and others have to deal with that. But we talked about it earlier. To solve this problem, we're going to have to make incremental changes so that the system can adjust, and we can keep funding schools and police services and things like that they fund with property taxes at the local level. Remember, property taxes is not a state tax. It is a county, and it is a municipal tax and a school tax. So it's going to take some time, and in such a diverse state like Pennsylvania, it's going to really take some give and take, but it is something that is on the forefront every election cycle and since I've been in, and people are trying to solve these problems, and I hope to make some progress here in the near future.
Yeah. Well, the only other problem I have with the property tax is we get taxed by the county and our township, and that seems to me like a double dip tax.
Yeah, I mean, there is a reality of the way Pennsylvania is set up, right? The Commonwealth system that we have, it's different than other states. I'm thinking of states like, just off the top of my head, like Virginia, others that do countywide services, everything from countywide schools to countywide emergency services. And it's just different from the way we do it here. There's a lot of amazing pluses to having local control, your community, but at the same time, we are now dealing with a situation, and a lot of people are suffering under the fact that there needs to continue to be funding for all of these governments and all of these services that are provided, but it's not sustainable any longer, because again, we're losing population is getting older, and just to go back to what you said, though, fundamentally, property tax, you're renting your property from the government for the rest of your life. And after you've worked your entire life and you finally settle down, you own the home, you worked on that home, you fixed the home, you did everything with that home. And then suddenly you start getting tax bills that are going up, and you're starting to think about, do I have to leave the place that I love, the place where I raised my kids, place that my husband or my wife and I have lived in forever? It's horrible, and you're right, and it's a problem that needs to be dealt with. And I'm excited about the prospect of having a governor like Stacey Garrity, because we can actually have that conversation for once.
Thank you very much for your call. We have
Thank you.
15 seconds. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Anything else in the waning seconds we have?
It's always fun to be here, Scott. Looking forward to next month.
Let's definitely do it. If you missed anything, it's on our Facebook page. You can catch up. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You're listening to 99.3, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls.